You're listening to the Womanpreneur Podcast. Empowerment in business and life. Hi, welcome to the Womanpreneur Podcast. My name is Melissa Moats, and this is
Amanda McEwen.
And we are super excited to have our very first manpreneur guest. His name is Brent Mukai. There should be some mad applause happening right now.
There should be some mad applause.
Let's get that applause and sound effects, please.
Ooh, listen to that. Ooh, it sounds so good. Thank you, Shane.
And like a slow fade right here, just keeping it classy.
Yeah.
Claps.
Good, and it fades out.
Yeah.
Hi, Brent Mukai.
Hello.
We're super excited to have you as our first manpreneur guest.
Our first manpreneur. I think most of you know because we talked to him through our episodes a fair amount of time. But Brent Mukai is also our producer. He's been a sounding board for us since the very beginning of how do you do a podcast? Because Brent Mukai has a Brent Mukai podcast, so who better to educate us than the guy who has his very own? And he's an improv specialist and a voice actor, and there's probably a whole
all-around good guy.
Yeah.
I'll take it.
Yeah.
That's some pretty good titleage right there.
And you're a good hugger. I just want to add that in.
One of the best.
People
tell me that. People tell me that. You know.
Solid.
Keeping it humble, but like people say it.
People say it.
People say, "Oh, good hug."
And that's why I'm keeping the two huggers on the other side of the table. So these two can hug each other, and I'm just going to sit here and slink away to the side.
We'll hug later, and we could even maybe high five later too.
That sounds good. I'm all for all of that.
Amanda's not into any of that over on her side of the table, but that's fine. But it's good. She's true to herself. We gotta love that about her.
Yeah,
I love it.
And you know what? I don't care.
You don't give a hoot?
I don't give a hoot.
It's really funny that you should mention that. How interesting the timing of that statement, because we have a really interesting topic today. Would you like to share with our amazing viewers and listeners about what the topic of today is?
Yes, because we're keeping it clean on this podcast. The topic is stop giving a hoot. Give less hoots in a way. And if you don't know what the word I'm depositing hoot into for, then ask your mom and dad, and they may or may not tell you. So
that's good. Yeah. That's really good. Way to clean it up. You're a class act.
I'm keeping it classy, you know.
You're a smart owl.
We're going the pun route today.
One wise owl sitting here. Well, look at your shirt today.
I do have to mention I didn't know what the substitute word was going to be until I got here. I just happened to bring my one and only owl shirt with me. And so it just seemed appropriate. This timing just works out. We're talking about hoots or not giving hoots, and now I have to wear my owl shirt.
Is that serendipitous or synchronistic?
Ooh, maybe both.
Ooh,
I like
serencristic.
That sounds like a name.
It does sound like a name.
It's called serencristic, and ask her.
Yeah.
Serencristic. What do you think?
Thank you. I think it's good. So, tell me about this whole thought process. I want to know about giving less hoots.
Okay. I just feel like throughout because a little bit of backstory, right?
Yeah.
I come from the world of improv.
Right.
We met years ago. You are my mentor currently, and I have said this on record many times, but I will say it on the permanent record. I owe everything to you, Melissa Moats.
Oh my goodness.
And I'm living my dream now, loving what I'm doing, and what I see is people that come through the studio, and because I now teach at the voice actor studio, right? People who come through, they care too much. Yeah. And that can be a dangerous situation to be in. I feel like there's a point where you can be smart, but then the danger of that is you then start, I'm hitting the microphone. Podcast expert here, hitting the microphone.
I do it all the time, but I'm not an expert, so.
Not yet.
But that's why I traded mics with you.
Oh,
it's
perfect.
the whole reason.
Yeah, I'm just karate chopping microphones over here.
Although something could happen over here with this one. It's still early in the episode. We don't know what might happen.
Right.
Brent and I are going to kung fu fight later.
I want to hear some sound effects like...
Yeah.
Okay.
For those of you who are not watching this, I'm Asian, so it's fine for me to say that. So a common improv principle, right, is that failure is embraced as a part of the process of improv. Typically, if you watch anything improv related, you'll notice the funniest parts is when something fails or goes wrong, but then everybody embraces it together as opposed to standing there all apart and then saying, "Ha, you failed, you suck," right? When failure is embraced all together, then it turns into laughter and it turns into a reward in improv. So over and over, what I preach to people when I'm teaching improv is, feel free to fail. And I feel like if you are caring too much, if you're giving too many hoots, right? If you are a hoot giver, that you only have so many hoots to give. So give a hoot about the things that are important, right? Yeah. Like doing your taxes. You kind of need to really care about that.
Right.
I like how he's looking at you for that, Amanda.
Yeah. Tax girl over here. But yeah, there are more repercussions to not doing your taxes than there are making a mistake in an improv group.
Right, or making a mistake, or trying to think too hard about what these specs in voice acting mean, or like what if I email this client in this certain, like what should I? It's paralyzing.
Yeah.
It's paralyzing, and I think that all these people, a lot of people can put out a class and kind of be like, here's the best way, and here's the next, and here's the best way, and you can fall down this rabbit hole of you're worried so much about doing it right, you're not doing anything at all.
Right. No, we get in our own heads, that's for sure. And I think that when you're interpreting a script or you're doing, going through your creative process, you don't want to forget to have fun. You don't want to forget to just enjoy the work, enjoy what you're doing, and not getting so hung up on the technique or the what you think somebody else wants.
Or a completely made up timeline. Like, I need to accomplish this by this date, and if I don't, I'm just going to give up.
Absolutely.
Because I've talked before about I don't believe in the 5-year, 10-year plan, which everybody assumes that I do because I'm the detail person and I'm very meticulous in what I do. But a plan like that to me is so limiting because now you're saying I can only do the things that are on this path, and if I veer away from it, somehow I failed. Yeah. But sometimes there's an opportunity over that's nowhere on the path that you're on, but it's way better. And I always believe in being open to that. And so what if that means I have to abandon this thing that I spent all this time thinking this is what I wanted to do?
Right.
Maybe this thing over here is going to be better.
It's rigidity. There's too much. It's Bruce Lee, right? He's like, the way to, again, I'm Asian. The way to, I'll look right in the camera for y'all. Be like water. Mm-hmm. Be like water because it can shape and mold into whatever is necessary and whatever is needed. So, he always thought, well, I guess this applies to business and kung fu, right?
It's always good when something applies to business and kung fu.
I mean, that's
Right.
well-rounded right there.
We have two things, business and kung fu. That's my new podcast coming out.
And a little bit of stuff in between,
Business and kung fu and a little bit of rock and roll.
But I was going to add to what Amanda just said, and honestly, it's like when you're on one path and then you decide another, you come to a fork in the road and it's time to head another way or whatever. You're still a sum total of all of your experiences. Mm-hmm. So you had to go through what you went through to get to that point to go to the next place. Mm-hmm. So just embrace it and be happy it happened, and don't always slap labels on stuff.
Right. People
Good, bad, whatever.
Calling it like a waste of time.
Right.
But it's like, it's never a waste of time if you learn something from it.
Right. Yep, we're in a constant state of growth, hopefully.
Right? We definitely hope so.
Yeah.
And even mistakes. Mistakes help you learn and grow and figure out. And sometimes mistakes just kind of take you to that next step anyway. And you realize, okay, well, I did something this way this time. It didn't work. What are my options now? I can try a different way. Yeah. Or maybe I want to try something else. When we started this podcast, we talked to you a lot and found out that most people stop doing their podcast within about a month.
Yeah.
And it's like they get into it, they're excited, and then they realize, I have to do the work. It takes a lot of work to do it, and they just give up. When sometimes, like going back to your tax thing, just because it makes sense, the IRS gives you 2 years that your business can lose money. They just assume that at least your first 2 years, you might operate at a loss because that's how businesses are built. You're figuring things out. You're making
really
the
nice of them.
investment.
That's very nice
And
of them.
it's actually
They
not-
sound a lot like my mom. We're just gonna assume this is gonna fail. So
Well, it's 2 out of any 5 years can be a loss, so it doesn't have to be the first 2. But a lot of times in those initial steps, you're making the investment, you're learning, you're growing, figuring out what works, what doesn't work, and then something happens maybe in that 3rd year, and suddenly everything just explodes, and now all of the hard work is paying off. But if you would have given up in that first year and just said, I didn't make any money, like I actually lost money on this isn't going to work, you lose faith in yourself and your abilities, and just the whole process again about timing and how things work out. But sometimes you just have to keep going. You do need to know when to stop, but not having instant success right away with everything, that's not a reason to give up in what you're doing.
And even worse to me, right? Even the thing that you just described, that's better than never getting started, because you're telling yourself no before you even begin.
Yeah.
And that's so much of giving so many hoots. You know what I mean? Like, I'm going to say
gonna
that
make me
as
laugh
many
every
times
time.
as possible. I'm handcuffed, not being able to swear.
I know.
I love potty mouth stuff.
This is going to be the biggest challenge for Brent.
I know.
But you're doing a great job.
Thank you.
We're really
very
proud of you.
much. Right at the end, I'm just like, hey.
It's going to be a
Thanks so much. Right? But I and you teach. I mean, you both teach, and you both work with so many different people. I think we all know somebody who says, "Oh, I can't do this," before they even get started, and it's like you're denying yourself that chance.
Yeah.
You know, and how do you know until you try it?
Yep.
Because too many people believe that what they want is impossible. And I hear it all the time. Oh, I'll never have enough money. I'll never have enough time. I just don't have enough support. There's always these reasons, and they're self-limiting. They're all in your head because you can create all these things. You can find ways to make money or to create more time for yourself, more space. Find a way to do what's important to you. But a lot of people, I think it's the success that scares them. Sometimes happiness is scary for people.
I think people are also afraid of failure.
Right. And it's like, oh, well, if I don't even try, then I at least have a reason why it didn't work.
And we can just as easily as we're telling ourselves all the things we can't do, we can just as easily tell ourselves that we can do them. And isn't it interesting that it's so much easier to say no or can't than it is to say, yes, I can. You know, it reminds me of your yes and thing that you teach in improv. And I love that.
That is complete. Do you know what yes and is?
I do.
How do you know? You've done improv?
I know you. I know Marcus. I used to watch Whose Line Is It Anyway?
Yes.
That's true.
And it's fantastic.
There we go.
Yes, and.
We're building.
But because the second you say no, it's over. You're giving the next person has nothing to work with at that point.
Right. They have to, now you have to keep creating something new. For those of you who don't know what yes and is, it's the principle of improv that says that as long as the people are in agreement and adding on, so it happens in 2 parts. One is the yes, which is I agree with what you just said, and which is forcing you to then add your own perspective on it. You can go back and forth with any amount of people doing yes and create infinite amounts. But the second somebody says no, that's when you hit a wall. And I think that applies so much to life. Because too many people are, again, they're saying no. A buddy of mine once told me this, and it changed my life. He said, if you look for every reason not to do something, you'll always find more than enough reasons. But if you look for even one reason to do something, then you will find it and know that that's enough.
I love that. And what would happen if we changed our internal dialogue to everything being yes and yes, and I mean that's a imagine the possibilities there. If every no but turned into a yes and, holy cow.
And even when you're talking about that, I always, when I'm, it's hard to teach people how to follow your instincts or your intuition.
Yeah.
But it's one of those things. I think the obvious part is when there's just something that's constantly nagging at you. I need to do this. I need to do this. But what you just said, like if you're also looking for reasons not to do something, that a lot of times is a sign that what you want, you really want to do it. You're trying to talk yourself out of it. You want to do it, but like you're actively trying to find reasons not to. That's the fear speaking. It's I really want to do this thing. I I want to do it so much, but why is it a bad idea? Let me come up with all the reasons not to, because it's easier to not do it than just to take the leap.
And this is, I mean, this is instinctual. That is instinctual. The no, the fear, all of that is more instinctual than people give value to. So, I mean, if you're listening at home and you're like, oh, I do that, and you have that awareness and the self-awareness to see that, then I want you to understand and know that that's something that we are inherently born with as human beings, because it was an evolutionary, and this is part of my improv thing, it was an evolutionary trait that developed because the people who said, oh, you know what, I want to go, I don't want to just hang out in the same place I've been hanging all day. Let's just go explore this dark cave that could be filled with monsters. Those people all died eventually. And then the people who were like, no, I'm cool just chilling, being the exact same way all the time, those people survived over generations and generations. But now we're at a point where we don't have to worry about, if I go to Costco, no.
There could be some monsters in Costco. Have you gone there on a weekend?
Yeah.
during their fairs that they have in the park.
Especially that room where you can go in for get dairy and like the cold stuff. I don't know what really happens in there, but
they have a great deal on 4 saber-toothed tigers right now. But they only sell them in bulk.
A whole pack of them, yeah.
But yeah, it's like but now we don't have to worry about that as much, but we still have that inherent fear and that all of that same instinct goes someplace. And don't let the fact that don't let your humanity get in the way of your happiness.
Right.
Yeah.
It's interesting because it is generational. Like I was talking to my dad today, it's his birthday, and he worked for the same company, retired from that company, and we were talking about that a little bit, because that, just to me, the idea of working at the same company for decades, it doesn't sound like fun, and it's not an option for people of our generation. Like that pension and retirement has all gone away for the most part, and there's just so many opportunities now to where he sees me as more of a risk taker because I try new things, but I have that ability because there were people like him that stayed put and made this one trail, and now there are different opportunities for the rest of us. And it's, it was triggered by somebody else I just talked to recently who's been, works this job and hates the job. Right. Every day for 14 years that he's worked there, hates the job, but that's where he's going to work until he can't work there anymore, just because it's
stability.
Yeah, it's stability. And to me, that's just, I can't imagine spending every day for that many years just being unhappy. That's unacceptable
Plus
to me.
Plus the world changed.
The world did change.
Yeah. And a word popped in my head a couple times when you guys were talking, and the word is risk. Mm-hmm. You take a risk by taking that leap and trying something that you've really been curious about or passionate about. But you also take a risk, in my opinion, an even greater risk, by just staying the same.
The risk of missing out on all the greatness that's out there.
The risk of missing out on all of the possibilities. Mm-hmm. I mean, because there are so many, and so many people are crazy talented. I mean, they have all these super skills that they don't really realize, or they discount, or they're like, oh yeah, this amazing ability to paint and draw, oh, it's no big deal, it's just a hobby. And I'm like, oh my gosh, or that's just one example that popped in my head. But we all have so many abilities, and we're multi-layered, multifaceted. Mm-hmm. So I don't know, just I don't let all that go to waste.
Right. I think that's a brilliant, thing to bring up, because everybody can think about the risk of failure, but what's greater to me is the risk of living a life unhappily. Of unhappiness, like just for forever or in perpetuity,
because life is so short. Yeah. I mean, it really is. Even if you're lucky enough to live a very long life, did you accomplish everything? Did you really squeeze every moment out of life that you could? And that, it's been on my mind a lot lately, just a lot of things as, timing happens and things come up. And I always kind of stop every now and then to question, am I making I feel like I take advantage of every opportunity. Yeah. And I'm very actively making sure that I do that, but there's always those thoughts, but am I doing enough? And is there more? Am I missing out on something else? And
right.
But I just have that drive. I need to know. I need to know what else is going to happen.
Not to sound like morbid or whatever, but I mean, imagine being in that moment, like those last moments of your life, and reflecting back, and would you want your last thoughts to be, I wish I would have, or oh my gosh, I'm so glad that I did. And it's about the experiences and the moments and just proving to yourself what you're capable of. It's exciting because when you do surprise yourself, there's such a gift in that. And it's like, oh my gosh, wow, that was amazing. It's kind of a rush. And, but yeah, I just think, this is a gift. This time that we have here is a gift. And, it's just enjoy it, and be a part of the party, So.
Right. And listen, if you are a person who does work a 9-to-5 and paints in your spare time, but you love every minute of that, that's fine.
Yeah.
I think that the happiness is like the big motivator, right? Like,
yeah.
So, yeah, in no way are we saying like, quit your job right now and go be
And also making the most out of life doesn't always mean you're out there and active and running yourself down.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes enjoying every moment means you're going to spend an entire day on the couch with friends or with your relationship or whatever. You're just going to hang out and not do anything productive, but that's going to be the best day that you've had in a while.
I was just reading an article about happiness versus contentment and them being synonymous, basically, because if you are feeling content, you're feeling whole, you're feeling fulfilled in your life, that's a beautiful thing. And just the comfort of your routine, or the structure of your life that you've set up for yourself, there's a lot of beauty just in that. So if you're feeling content or you're happy in what you're doing, I mean, more power to you. Just, bask in that. I do think that it's always a good idea to continue to grow and challenge yourself, even in small ways. But I really think contentment is a really big part of just success in life, is if you're feeling content and joyful and just, you're in a good spot.
And we talk about this all the time, but it's subjective. So what's contentment for you? Clearly, everybody who's listened to or watched this podcast knows, doesn't mean that's going to be contentment for me.
Yeah.
But that's why it's so important to not give so many hoots about what other people think. Just because something is fun or you're content doing what you're doing, that's maybe not right for me.
Because you know yourself.
Yes, and I don't begrudge you for your weird tastes. But no, I'm kidding.
Whatever, Amanda McEwen.
We all know that I am the weird one of the bunch, and that's okay.
What's crazy is everybody, I feel like, either falls on one side of the coin, but I feel like everybody's a combination of both.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Do we have like T-shirts? Who's an Amanda and who's a Melissa?
We should. They'd be yellow and orange.
Yeah.
Oh, Moats or McEwen?
Right. Yeah.
Question mark.
Mine would have sunshines on them.
Of course they would. Are you saying mine would be darkness?
No, yours would be
turquoise.
Yours would be gray and turquoise stripes.
This is the second time that you've told me something about me being turquoise.
I always think of turquoise in you for some reason,
my
like
aura.
Teal. It's a very pretty blue.
Yeah,
I'm just saying.
I'll
Anyway,
take it. But my whole point was that if you care so much about what other people are doing to be happy, you're missing out. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. I want every happiness for you, Brent, and for you, Melissa, but it doesn't matter to me what makes you happy as long as you're doing what makes you happy.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to, I don't have to understand why. Maybe you're at home doing Kung Fu, which is great, and I would like to see that, actually.
I would love, oh man, I wish I was doing that.
Well, the last time I was peeking in your windows, I believe you were doing Kung Fu. I'll just leave it there.
When I was a child, I would take a plastic bag and keep it up in the air by doing Kung Fu moves. That was
fantastic.
Wow.
That was what made me happy. I just...
Well, and that's kind of what it is. And I think there's part of us that needs to always chase that childish freedom.
Yeah.
But then when you were a kid and you didn't have the weight of the world and all these responsibilities, what can we do as an adult did I just say that right? It sounded weird in my head. But what can we do as adults that's that much fun?
Yeah.
That's so carefree.
Where we're not taking life or ourselves too seriously.
Right.
Yeah.
While still, you can still be responsible.
Yeah.
And you still have to do the work. You always, no matter what, have to do the work. But
Amanda also recommends paying your taxes.
I do recommend paying your taxes.
It's balance. That's all it is.
I mean, we'll do it if we have to,
Right.
but it's It's not our favorite.
That's my favorite thing, though. Is like, here's the world is like so concerned with like taxes and you know, and business. I gotta be a businessman. Here's my briefcase. Look at me go, right? Like that's so much of the world that people forget the other side of it, and you need to balance it out with like sometimes you just gotta take a plastic bag, throw it up in the air, and do kung fu moves to keep it up, right? And make the noises, right? And imagine that you're fighting like an actual bunch of villains. And yeah,
that's why, you know, this podcast for us, it's not stuffy business, because business is fun. And I know bookkeeping and taxes, blah, boring. That's not the fun part of it. But if you get that stuff taken care of, then you can do all the fun things. And the fun things are the freedom and just doing what you love every day on your own terms, and not having to work a schedule that doesn't make sense for your life and follow the rules that somebody else set probably decades ago that don't make sense anymore. You're taking control of your own life, and that's so important. So many people don't do that. And I think it's they don't understand that they have the ability to do that, because nobody ever taught them that you can do things. You have to work for them, but you can go do whatever you want to do.
Well, we're such a product too of our environments and, you know, what we've learned behaviors, you know, things that we've just other people have taught us. And whether it's the household we grew up in or just, you know, the people we've worked closely with, gone to school with, et cetera. So we're super influenced by, you know, everyone around us, whether we want to be or not. It's the truth. But when somebody throws out an idea like you're saying, like, you know, you can totally do it differently. You can, you know, it's like, what? Paradigm shift? Like, what do you mean? And, you know, just that whole idea from even, you know, starting your own business or working from home, or you don't have to do a 9 to 5. Or I know a lot of people nowadays are saying like, you know, no, I'd like to have at least a day I can work from home. And they're like presenting these ideas to employers and stuff like that, or more, even more than that.
Right. Or even just asking yourself, even just taking 1 second out of your day and asking yourself, what's going to make me happy? What makes me happy? What brings me joy?
Yeah. Maybe make a joy list.
And at the top of the list, put make a joy list so you can cross it off.
And I intentionally, another reason, if you're listing only, my facial expression right now while these guys are hugging is
Brent totally
here.
Take that, audio listeners. We hugged and you can't watch it because you're not watching this.
So
they could feel it.
Get on YouTube, y'all.
Watch how uncomfortable I am and how sad I am at the idea of a joy list and crossing make a joy list off of the to-do. I just so much. But
I'm not taking it too seriously right here.
Right.
I'm just
She's not giving no hoots.
I'm giving zero hoots right now.
No hoots.
Zero hoots given to whether or not Amanda likes my joy list idea.
And I commend you for that.
But I know you do. I appreciate it.
I mean, you shouldn't care.
We all just have our way, and it's a good thing that we do.
Yeah.
You know?
I mean,
the world would be very boring if we were all the same.
It really would be. And as you said something about, we're not taught that we can do these things. And sometimes maybe somebody just wants 1 day off a week.
Yeah.
But again, people get paralyzed in that fear and they don't ever ask for it.
Yeah.
And you don't ever get the things you don't ask for. But so many people, that's the piece that stops. Is that I'm not going to ask for that raise. I'm not going to ask for that flexibility. I really want to go see my kid in this play, but I'm scared to ask for the time off. And you shouldn't be afraid of your daily life.
What's the worst thing that's going to happen?
Yeah.
If you ask. Or
and if it's not a saber-toothed tiger eating you, then it's worth asking.
Yeah.
Yes.
Stay out of that cave.
Yeah. Because what if they say no,
Yeah.
you can't work from home one day. Okay, if you still have your job, great. But maybe that's going to inspire you to go look for another better job where they're going to understand that your time offers value. And if you have that time off to go do something, or just to be at home and be more comfortable and productive, you're actually a better employee to them because now you're happier. And when you're happier, you're more motivated. It's all good things.
It is all good stuff. It just kind of piles on top of each other, all of those ideas.
If you're listening to this, because if you're listening to this and you are like, I was not raised in a household where things were, told to me that I could do these things and that there wasn't support, I'm telling you, I have great empathy for you because I have Asian parents that were very much like, any career in artistic endeavor, anything that's not being a doctor or a businessman, which they never clarified what that was. Now that
But it was not, you had a briefcase.
yeah, son, here's a briefcase. Go off to school. These are learned things, and I learned them through improv because being surrounded and forced to say yes and starts to affect your brain. And it starts to allow you to have the freedom to use your imagination, to really look inward, to really develop this sense of positivity and embracing the things that seem scary, even though there's failure involved, right? For me, that was my religion, was improv, and that changed my life. And if you are saying, I don't think I can change, I'm telling you right now, you can, but you have to ask yourself these questions. And it starts with like the happiness.
Yep.
And one of my favorite quotes is, what is insanity, or what's the definition of insanity? And it's doing the same thing every day and expecting different results. So if you're wanting a different result, you gotta switch it up. You gotta do something different. You gotta do something a little scary, like go to an improv class. I've heard people walk in and they're like, I'm here. I'm absolutely terrified, but I'm here. And I'm like, you're here and you're going to have a lot of fun. And then I've heard people say afterward, that's the best thing I've done all year. That's the fun, the most fun I've had. Yeah. I learned something about myself, and that's just one example of taking an improv class. But man, I think we just put a lot in our minds. Like we put a lot of pressure on ourselves. And we make things really big.
Yeah. And we do all have the ability to change. Just because we were raised one day doesn't mean now we're sentenced to a life of that.
That's who you were yesterday.
And that happens a lot. But like you were saying before, every step along the way, it helps craft who we are and where we end up. But we can control that. We can change that. It's creating new habits. And I'm not saying it's an easy thing to do. You don't just become a different person overnight. But if it's important to you and your own happiness is important, you want to take the steps to change your habits. And there are ways you can reprogram your brain. And it's important. But everybody has that ability to change. We're not trapped. Because, you made one mistake in your life or 100 mistakes. Okay, that's in the past. That's not who you are today.
Right. And because who you were yesterday doesn't have to be who you are today or tomorrow. One thing I was thinking as you were talking too was just the words personal development, personal growth. And there are so many tools and resources and blogs and, motivational speakers. And people who really teach like tangible how-to tools to really change your life and recraft and they ask those really deep introspective questions and help you really look for those answers, because it's not easy to change habits, especially if somebody just, suggests, well, change your habits. Well, okay, that's a great idea, but how do I do that? How do I deconstruct everything I've been doing? But I think taking it upon yourself to seek out tools and resources and people who can really help you, do a lot of reading. Watch YouTube is like a ton of awesome, how to change your habits. You could just put that in the World Wide Web and a whole lot of things will pop up.
And people talk so much about the negative effects of social media, right? Everybody's quick to jump on the bandwagon of that, but without addressing the fact that there are groups out there. There's like Facebook groups. There's like whole groups dedicated to helping spread a positivity mindset and motivation groups and all of there's so much out there now in an unprecedented way that there never has been before. That it's, again, if you look for all of the bad, you can find that. Yeah. But if you look for the good, right? Man, how much better does your life become?
Right. What you think about is what you bring about.
Melissa loves quotes.
I'm a quote girl today. I'm the Moats quotes. That's right. Totes Moats quotes over here. It's my coffee's kicking in. It's getting weird.
Everybody, new hashtag.
It's kicking in. But no, real quick too, I just want to throw out a couple of people I find to be very inspirational and I've learned a lot from is I love Rachel Hollis. She's got 2 really great books out. One is called Girl Wash Your Face. The other one's called Girl Stop Apologizing. And both of them are really great, and they're both very different books, and I loved them both. Another really great one I've talked about before is You Are a Badass, and I'm sitting next to a couple of badasses right here. And I also really enjoy the teachings of Mr. Tony Robbins, because he is not just motivational, but he does give like break it down kind of tools. So those are a few of my faves. Do you have any faves?
Yeah, my number one guy is Gary Vaynerchuk. He's
Yeah.
my personal favorite. I'm drawn to the way he swears, the way he talks, but I'm drawn to a lot of his ideas, and like, you know, the things that he talks about are like be kind and give first and be a giving human being, because that's ultimately, you know, that's the best way to start any type of relationship, and hopefully form any type of relationship.
To serve others.
Right.
Yeah.
If you are in the service of others, and I've always believed that. I've always thought that. I've consistently believed that. But then, you know, you go through life, and then people tell you things like, "Oh, you know, don't let people take advantage of you," or there should be a limit to the giving, and you know, there's all of these things, and it's like, no. I think I had it right as a kid. Like, I think the way that I used to think of it before was I want to be kind, and like good things happen, right?
You get reprogrammed at times. Life kicks in, and then you have to start working, and there's so many different voices in your head. So I think it's great to, you know, read books and look for that inspiration from other people. It's very helpful to get different perspectives. I also am of the belief that so much of the answers come from inside, but you have to. It's really hard sometimes for a lot of people to go in there and to really think, okay, I am having this reaction right now. Why? And not question why. Because a lot of times we don't question why we act a certain way or why we feel a certain way. We're really quick to take that action and say, well, it's the fault of somebody else, or this situation caused me to feel this way. It's like, but why? Or was it really that other person? Or is there a fear inside that you're now projecting onto them? Or, you know, there's a lot of answers inside, but
it's scary to go there.
Yeah.
Because what you find might not be the best thing.
And then you have to maybe have to admit that the problem is you.
Right. And then what do you do? And then you
can fix it.
Then you can fix it.
it.
But it starts with the inner, with looking inwards.
Yeah.
Another great thought-provoking book that I've read that I really enjoy is called Solve for Happy by Mo Gadet.
Okay.
He's an Egyptian dude, came to America, became one of Google's top analysts. And essentially, at Google, what they do is which I think you'll both love this idea, what they do is they take moonshots. They call them moonshots, and they say, instead of trying to build up to these little things, instead of trying to incrementally do this to build, which is what every other person does, what we're going to do is we're going to come up with the idea and release that out into the world, and then figure out, backwards engineer how to work that. So the Google car, right? The whole self-sufficient, self-driving car, that's a moonshot. They announced it. Everybody was like, yeah, right. But they announced it so that they could go backwards. And his moonshot was he was going to figure out a mathematical way, an approach to break down happiness into an equation.
Wow.
Oh, that's cool.
The happiness equation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Solve for Happy.
I like that.
Phenomenal book.
Yeah.
Oh, I love that. I'm going to read it.
And
Immediately.
It fits my number nerd in, you know, it's
like
exciting
a perfect
to me.
combination.
Yeah.
Something for everybody.
Yeah.
We're all about balance here.
That's where I got the whole going backwards, and you know, the instant, because you never think about it, but like, oh yeah, instinctually we're predisposed to fear stuff.
We're predisposed to give a lot of hoots.
Exactly.
And I thought of an example, just a very random example of me not giving a hoot at all recently in a moment that I was very scared.
Let's talk about it.
It's dangerous. I could have been eaten.
Yeah.
You could
For real.
Well,
For real. No, for real. No, I'm just saying. I'm saying.
You can tell
guys
your
don't-
story, but I'm just, there was a safety factor built in.
No.
You took that thing off and still did it.
Well, one of my biggest fears is being eaten by a shark. or even being bitten by a shark. I've just always been super freaked out about sharks. And I was recently on vacation down in Florida, and my niece and I, we decided that we wanted to rent a paddleboard and just go out right off the beach, like go out and just stand together and paddleboard. And I was like, yeah, I got this. I can do this. My niece is with me, and she's 13, and she totally is putting all her faith and trust in me that we're going to stand up on this thing together and do a great job, and it's going to be awesome. And I've paddleboarded a whole bunch, but not really out on the Gulf where it's, got the waves going and the wind and other things. It's usually pretty still here in Las Vegas on our little fake lakes that we get to paddleboard on. But anyway, I had a lot of fear inside, and I was kind of like, oh my gosh, I'm going out here on a paddleboard, and I kind of look like a seal right now. That's what they say. Don't look like a seal because you've got a paddleboard.
A paddleboard looks like a seal.
A paddleboard looks like a seal, and I'm doing this, and I'm on my way out.
You chose the most seal-looking thing to do.
I was looking very seal-like, and I was scared, and then I was like, you know what? I'm not going to give a hoot right now about these sharks possibly swimming underneath me. Mm-hmm. I am going to stand up on this paddleboard like a boss. And if I fall in this water, I'm going to laugh about it. I'm going to have fun, and I'm not going to worry. And you know what? I fell off that paddleboard probably 15 times with my niece. And I live to talk about it.
I was going to say, did you get eaten by a shark?
No.
She only lost one foot.
I only lost one foot, and thankfully I had another foot.
You had a backup. That's fine.
Foot.
Backup foot.
Yep.
I'm getting around a little slower these days. Now people call me Hoppy instead of Happy.
My favorite beer.
Yeah. But yeah.
I snuck that one under.
That was really good. It took me a second. I was like, oh yeah, Hoppy beer. Good. Gotcha. So anyway, little delayed reaction on that from my brain. But anyway, I was truly scared and truly fearful for real. Mm-hmm. And I was like, you know what? Just let it go. Just let it go and just get out of your head and just have fun and be on this paddleboard and stop thinking about what you're afraid of and just embrace this moment with your niece on this paddleboard. And I have to say that was one of my most favorite moments of our vacation was paddleboarding with her.
And when you're talking about business, how many people die from trying to start a business? Like you fall off of your paddleboard, you get eaten by a shark. That's a real danger.
Yeah.
But not succeeding at business your first try, is that like you're not going to... In most cases, I don't want to say it never happens, but for most of us, we're not going to die if our business doesn't succeed right away.
Right.
It's not, it's a different level of fear, sure. And there are things like money and there's different stresses that come into it that are much different than being eaten by a shark.
Yeah.
But
my business is teaching monkeys how to use swords, so.
Well, his first kung fu thing didn't work out.
Kung fu monkeys.
Let's not say no business.
Right. Well, Brent's kung fu monkeys. They could lead to death.
That's a great one.
Oh my gosh.
We're just coming up with all kinds of stuff for you.
We're all so
Brilliant
witty.
ideas.
I like how we congratulate ourselves for our...
Hey, sometimes you have to.
I know.
Sometimes you have to take pride in what you do and put it out there and just say, yeah, I did that. I accomplished that. I faced my fear. I overcame it. I succeeded. We got to tell ourselves some nice things sometimes and not just worry so much about what we're not doing.
Right. What you just said and what Melissa just said to me is like you're building, this is a muscle. Mm-hmm. Stopping, giving into the fear and just saying, I'm going to do this anyway. That's a muscle that gets developed. Right. Telling yourself positive things, and positive reinforcement, that's a muscle. Mm-hmm. So it's like the second that you start realizing, okay, doing little things, right? These little things that I can do, which is, stand in front of a mirror and the positive. I don't do that, but like, I understand why people do that.
But do you have little Post-it notes on your mirror that tell you how great you are?
No, I don't.
Great kung fu move.
Yeah.
Brent Mukai. Is that what your Post-it would say? I'm just kidding.
I would.
No, but I don't have any Post-it notes on my mirrors. Just saying.
Mine would just be a karate hand coming at me.
All right.
But this is all learnable things. Mm-hmm. It's all not giving a hoot, right? Stopping like overthinking and realizing in the moment, having the awareness to realize in the moment when you are overthinking it, like that comes with practice. And
Yeah, because you can just as easily as you can't. And it's just maybe starting with those small things and flexing that muscle that you're talking about until it really becomes second nature for you. And then you can start exercising that muscle flexing on those bigger things that scare you. But start with small stuff.
what's one thing that you would say to people if they said, "Hey, what small thing can I do?" Like, what's a small thing you do that makes you say that kind of builds that muscle, whether you've thought about it in that way or not? But like, is there something small that you've done, or Amanda? Like,
For me, it's finding the positive in every bad situation. And so that can range from anything. You just had a bad day because of a bad experience at Costco. Maybe they ran out of saber-toothed tigers and you're upset about it. All the way to, losing somebody. Like every extreme, and it's the little things, it's easy. And so it's, everybody has bad days and they come back and they want to vent about stuff, and that's all healthy. But what good can you find in that? There's something that happened in that trip to Costco. Maybe you didn't get the saber-toothed tiger, but maybe you got something better. Or there's always something, and I actively search to find that. I'm stuck in traffic. Okay, but I can listen to my music now. There's just turning that around instead of focusing on how terrible everything is, because if that's what you're looking for, that's what you're going to find.
yeah.
But if there's something good and you can find it, it becomes the habit to focus on the good things, and that brings more good things to you because that's what you're searching for.
Yeah.
Whenever I get anxious, like, this is the trick that I do. Whenever I get anxious about anything, and I'm prone to it because I grew up in a lot of anxiousness, I identify it, and then the next question that I think about after I'm like, oh, I'm anxious, is like, am I going to die?
Right.
That's like legit all I'm like, am I going to die? And then if the answer is no, then I'm like, oh, okay, cool.
Yep.
So I can figure out the steps to not to have this paralyze me and move forward. It's like this little, and then everything that happens throughout the day. I've gotten so much stronger at not having to consciously think of that. But the little things, I'm just like, I'm fine.
And we were just talking to Abby before we started recording about how great the internet is. Because there's always something out there that you can laugh at. She was showing us some videos before. And I used to have this when I worked at the job and I had those days that were more stressful. There were a couple of videos that were my go-to that I knew that I could watch at any time and it would make me laugh. And one of them was Michael Stipe from REM dancing. Because he flails around a bit. There's a lot of shimmying that happens. It's fantastic, but I know that that specific video, anytime I watch it, it didn't take a lot of time. It was less than a minute. I would watch that video, I would laugh. Laughing makes me feel better. So I would just that video is bookmarked for a long time. I haven't watched it in ages, but that was a thing where I'm feeling stressed or I'm feeling it's too much right now. I'm gonna laugh.
Yep.
I laugh a lot.
I was going to say, I loved your silver lining example, like looking for, something good in every situation, because there really is something good if you look in there. But one of the things I caught myself doing recently was I was just like in a bad mood, and I was at home and I was working, and I just think I had a lot on my plate that day, and I was just grumpy, and I was just like in a bad mood. And I just stopped myself and I was like, hey, Melissa, if you just decided this could be fun. Like, you could have fun right now. It's just completely up to you. And I was like, oh yeah. Like, I had this weird little conversation with myself. And I was like, wait a second, it would be way more fun if I made this more fun. So I just started having fun. And similar thing, I put on some different music and I was like, you know what? I'm going to do some admin work right now. Not my favorite, but I was like, I'm going to make myself a cup of coffee, which I really like, and it's very fun. And I even have like a whole new setup in my kitchen, which I showed you.
Yes.
I have all of my syrups that I can put. I'm like a barista in my house. I'm really into it. And I was like, I even have a Starbucks apron that was given to me. And I mean, I get hardcore. I could be like a full-on barista just for a few minutes at my house if I wanted to be.
Does the apron get billing over the gigantic Starbucks sign that you have in your kitchen?
They're both pretty special, right?
Okay.
But
just because an apron.
I mean, if I'm making a cup of coffee, I'm going to have fun when I do it. That's what I'm saying. But anyway, anything you're doing that you're finding yourself in a grumpy mood about, or you're just having a bad day, you can stop yourself and say, oh, wait, I chose to be in a bad mood, or, oh, wait, I chose to put myself into this mindset. I can also choose to find the fun.
You have
So-
to acknowledge that it's a choice.
You have
And
to acknowledge
that's a
that
huge
it's a choice.
thing to do.
And
because-
that's taking the responsibility too, and not
absolutely.
blaming it somewhere else.
Right.
But that's another episode.
When you play barista in your kitchen, do
Yeah.
people have to tip you? Like, do you make a cup of coffee for Troy and have it?
She has a tip jar coming out. That's great.
I brew for hugs
Oh, geez.
and high fives.
I walked right into that one.
You
Abby
did.
and I just said high fives in unison, in stereo.
I knew better.
She gets me.
I knew better, and I asked
heart
anyway.
you.
I brew for hugs and high fives needs to be printed on an apron that you sell immediately
Thank
as
you.
a part of the Womanpreneur podcast.
You know, it's the little things that make me really happy. And making coffee, I like the experience of coffee. And I don't, it's not just the drink. That's what a lot of people think is like, I'm obsessed with caffeine and the beverage. It's the whole process.
Yeah.
It's the beans and the smell and the brewing and the sharing and the conversation. And the conversation doesn't always mean with someone else. It could just be some conversation with myself.
Oh, the inside voice.
Sometime. Yeah, my inside voice. She's cool in there. I like hanging out with her.
Inside voice is great.
But again, little things that you're doing, enjoying that process.
Yeah.
It's the same thing as business.
Yeah.
What you always say, it's not the destination, it's the journey. Even with
Absolutely.
as simple as coffee.
Absolutely. Wow.
I like
Thanks for sharing that moment with me. I'm feeling real good about it. Hold on, I want to sip.
You know what I'm feeling really good about?
What's that?
We went through the whole podcast. I didn't swear once.
You did not swear once, and now that we're getting towards the end, if you feel like you just need to let it out, we can.
Can we bleep it?
Oh, sure.
Shane, be
All
ready
right.
for the
Shane can cut it out
beeper.
for you,
Ready?
'cause I don't want you to leave here feeling all pent up.
I
and-
can't. Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
so-
I'm not pent up, but like, I need to say. Diarrhea.
That one we can leave in.
Oh,
You're
okay.
so dirty.
I'm glad I got two diarrheas in now. So, can I? Is it cool if I tell people where they can find me? Is
Yeah,
that fine?
please pitch yourself.
Manpreneur.
There
Thank
are many
you.
ways in which you can find Brent Mukai.
Yes. You can find me across podcast platforms. If you listen to me and you're like, man, I wish I heard that more, then you can find me at Brent Mukai Podcast, Mukai. Yes, I did name the podcast just my name because
Not just your name. That is your name, and you own that.
It is my
And it's
name.
fantastic.
And if you want to learn some great kung fu moves,
then come peek through my window.
I'll be
That's an
there
open invitation.
sipping my coffee.
We'll post his address below.
Melissa will be in her apron making coffees for you.
I'm just going to be shaking my head like I can't believe these guys.
And you can follow me across all social media at Brent Mukai, BRENT MUKAI. Hey, thank you, both of you. I'm serious. Seriously.
Yeah.
You have no idea what an honor this is to be here and be the first manpreneur on here. I loved this.
Well, we are very honored that you said yes.
Yeah.
I mean, we talked about it would have been a little weird if you said no, given that you produced this for us. And
Yeah.
it would have been kind of funny, but there was nobody else who could be our first Manpreneur guest.
Yes.
And we will hope we'll have you back because there's so much to talk about with you.
And we appreciate you, and we both want to thank you for all your help, because we would not be doing this podcast without your support and your encouragement and teaching us all these awesome moves that you have.
How to not give so many hoots about what everybody else thinks, because we're on video and we're awkward and we make funny faces and we say you know too much and all kinds of things that are happening.
All the hoots.
And Brent taught us it doesn't matter. He said nobody cares about that stuff. He said make the mistakes. That was one of the things you encouraged us if we're in the beginning, was not to
Don't
worry
even
about
worry
it.
about it.
And we stopped worrying about it and we have a lot of fun now.
We're not giving any hoots.
No hoots. No hoots.
Full
given.
circle, baby.
Yeah.
Full circle. All right. High five, Melissa. Woo! All right. Amanda, I'm just going to tap the table for you.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Thanks for tuning into the Womanpreneur Podcast. Until next time, you've got this.